This is Show Up as a Leader, a show from People Forward Network, helping you maximize your positive impact on the world by becoming your best, fully authentic self.
Hey there, everybody. It's Rosie. My friends from Vital Work, Rebecca Johnson and Natalie Johnson, passionately help leaders and teams function at full capacity. This new series, Energy, Connection, and Courage at Work, breaks down those three elements essential to a thriving workplace. Take a listen.
My name's Natalie Johnson, and I'm the co-founder and CVO of Vital Work. And we are here to talk about energy, connection, and courage.
My name is Rebecca Johnson, and I am not Natalie's sister or wife or cousin. We're not even related. We just share the same last name. And I am the other co-founder of Vital Work. And we are here because we're all part of teams in our lives. We're part of work teams, work units, big companies, nonprofit organizations, sports teams, community teams. And many times in our lives, these teams are not functioning at full capacity, right? There's friction and confusion and underperformance. And you and I and our team have realized that friction, confusion, and underperformance can be best understood and best resolved through the lens of three really important words: energy, connection, and courage. So we're here to talk about those things together, you and I, and eventually our team with all of you. Okay, so imaginary listeners, the truth is that Natalie has absolutely no idea what we're going to do with the next 15 minutes because she does best when she can just show up and be spontaneous. And I know exactly what we're going to do with the next 15 minutes because I'm the detail girl and I do best when I know the plan and I have something to execute on. And also someone had to organize this podcast, and that's me. And so we are super glad you're here with us. We hope you'll stay with us till the end. And at the end, we're each going to reveal a little secret that most people don't know about us. Natalie, I'm going to share a secret with you that you don't even know about me. Okay, so here's our plan to kick off the podcast. Natalie, I feel like when people listen to a new podcast, they have to get to know the people who are hosting the podcast. So I'm going to ask you a couple of random questions, and then we're going to get into the energy, connection, and courage piece.
Okay.
You ready?
Ready.
Okay, so what are 5 or 6 words that you would use to describe yourself to someone who doesn't know you?
Energetic, spontaneous, creative. Oh my gosh. Wait, I'm going to show you. I have this thing on my desk. So I have this
And
thing.
it says who you are?
It says, so this is word. So I have this thing on my desk, and it is a present that Johnson & Johnson gave all of us after working with us for many, many years. And they took tons and tons of surveys from over the years, and they pulled out like the most common words that were used to describe us and put it in a little plaque thing and gave it to us. So I have my words right in front of me.
That's crazy.
So this says personable. Now I'm pausing because it's like not the words I would use for myself, but it says personable, insightful, fantastic, generous, awesome, and focused. But I would say energetic, spontaneous, creative.
Those are all true. Those are all
Too
true.
many
Okay,
words already.
now one word that you don't feel very good about, like one word that you would really use to describe yourself, but that you don't feel very good about.
That's a hard one. The don't feel really good about is hard because sometimes I don't care. Because the first word that comes to mind is scattered. Like I have all these things I have to do today, but I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go. I'll say scattered. I could be scattered for sure.
Okay, I'm going to do the same.
Okay.
So my words are, I tried not to be too prepared. I was like, be spontaneous, be spontaneous. So my words are loving, kind, responsible, organized, overly structured, smart, and dedicated to being present for other people, often to my own detriment. That was more than 6 words.
I would add in calm. You always have a calm energy about you.
That is funny because I've heard that before and I often do not feel calm inside.
That was the first thing I noticed about you when I met you. First thing I noticed
Oh
about
my
you when I met
God.
you, I was like, she has such a calm energy. Like I need more of that calm energy.
And I needed more of your energized energy. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. So, one more thing about each of us, and then we'll get into energy, connection, and courage. So, share a couple of random, quirky, interesting things about yourself.
Oh, and this
Like the
isn't
first thing that came to mind for me was donuts.
oh,
You're
yeah.
like fascination with donuts.
Oh, yeah. It's a fascination with donuts, and it's really a fascination with food, but there is a fascination with donuts, and people remember this one. So I've always loved donuts my whole life. And I went through a period of time in my life where I did not allow myself to eat them because they're bad for you. And I've landed in a place where I love them and I eat them whenever I want, but it needs to be a good donut. Like it needs to be, if it has the potential to be the best donut in the world, I'm going to eat it. And so I, at one time, created an Instagram page and a Facebook page called My Donut Diaries. And as I work and travel and try different donuts, I take pictures of them and share all my donut diaries with other people.
Love it. I love it. One more.
So another one, and it comes back to food. I think the thing that I really want to be doing when I'm in retirement is I want a food truck, and I have all right. You didn't know that. And at one time, it was going to be a donut food truck, but it has changed now. And it is not a donut food truck, but it's a very unique kind of food truck that you're only going to find in certain places, and it needs to be able to move. And I have a whole plan behind it because this is what I'm going to do in my retirement. It's not a restaurant, it's a food truck.
Wait, and you don't know what's going to be on the food truck?
Oh, I know.
Oh, but you just can't say.
It's gonna be breakfast and lunch foods, but very, very unique things. And it's gonna be the kind of things that would be really delicious to pick up on your way to Anna Maria Island to go to the beach for the day or on your way to vacation. So the food truck can move and be in the spot right where the traffic would be going to the beach. And you can go online and order and pick it up while you're waiting in traffic on the way to the beach. So there's
Mm.
lots of like sweet and salty type foods. I like jalapenos, I experiment with jalapenos all the time with different like things like jalapeno ice cream or like
Mm.
very unique things that people have never heard of, but end up being really delicious, but they're breakfast and lunch. I have lots of sandwich ideas.
That's so like you to do something unique and also to want to be exactly where the action is.
Yeah.
All right, my random quirkies. I am a compulsive counter cleaner. So I go around cleaning whenever I get stressed or anxious, I have to clean something and I clean the counter and I can't really go to bed at night unless my counters are clean.
Okay, Brad.
I know.
It's same.
So for anyone that's listening, Natalie's husband Brad and I have a lot in common in that we're both introverted, very ordered, clean people. And when we get stressed out, Brad sweeps, right? Or just cleans
Mops.
anything.
It's
Yep.
usually mopping your
Yep.
vacuum,
And I clean
mopping.
counters.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So let's get into what we're actually here to talk about, which is not donuts and cleaning counters. It is energy, connection, and courage. So I always love the way that you talk about how we landed on energy, connection, and courage, kind of our origination story. Can you tell that story for us?
So I don't know how far back you want me to go with origination story, but I'll go to the fact that you and I ended up in the same space. So we didn't necessarily have the exact same background and training, but we ended up in the same space of worksite wellness. And I think we were both just noticing the same thing that all these companies are investing in all these things to get people healthier: fitness center, lunch and learns, nutrition, EAP programs, stress management, and it wasn't working. People were not necessarily willing to take care of themselves. There were things standing in the way of people being able to take care of themselves and actually show up and perform in a way that made them proud. And so I think we both started landing in the same place of, but what is really at the heart of this? And what does it take? What's really getting in the way of people being able to show up to work and perform at their highest level or even perform just at their capacity? And after speaking to people and trying to understand what's going on for them, it wasn't that there was no fitness center to work out in. It wasn't that there was, I don't know what healthy foods to eat. They knew all that. It was things like, I'm completely overwhelmed at work. I can't manage my work and my life and balance that or integrate that in a way that works. So that really lands on the energy part. People were not managing their energy well. We also heard from people and focus groups that there was drama, there was friction on teams, people didn't trust each other. So there was a lack of connection. That's where connection came in on teams specifically. And then finally, we recognized and other people recognized there's a whole lot of people in leadership positions without any leadership training. So there's a lot of command and control style leadership, a lot of leaders just not really knowing what they were doing. And so that's where courage came in. So it was managing energy,
Mhm.
creating authentic connection on teams, and supporting courageous leaders. And I always call that the root cause of why people are unable to show up and work to their potential.
And what was so cool is that we didn't start this company with the idea that we would let's start a company focused on energy, connection, and courage. I think we started a company just designed to help people work and live to their potential. And after years of working together, we just began to look at the data, the qualitative data, and pull out themes. And we realized that it landed in these three buckets. And now when
Yeah.
we talk about it, I'm just like, that is exactly it. It makes so much sense. And there's almost nothing that we see in the workplace or that we experience in our home lives that can't be understood through or addressed with a focus on energy, connection, and courage, usually all three.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
I was thinking about this, that maybe to kind of make this hit home instead of talking about it theoretically, I thought I might tell my own story about energy, connection, and courage. And I haven't even told this story to you. I've only said it out loud to one other person, but I'm going to tell you my story and then maybe we can tie the pieces together.
Yeah.
So, kind of where the story got most acutely bad because it was that virtual training in March of 2021 that you and I were facilitating together. And it was a Friday afternoon. It was that standing training we had on a Friday afternoon, which, PS, is a terrible time for a standing training. And we were maybe halfway through it. And I don't know if you remember this, but I sent you a chat and said, Nat, I don't know what's going on with me, but I might have to just leave and
Yeah.
I might need you to take over. And you said, okay, no problem. I'll be there. So that Friday afternoon was for me like the end of a long day, which was the end of a long week, which was the end of a long month, which was the end of COVID. It was a year, not even the end, but a year into COVID. So we had had to pivot our business really substantially. And that was stressful and required a whole bunch of new and extra work. That was the year that Dave and I moved in together. We blended our families. The kids were home from school. It had just been a really tough year for us and everyone. And I remember on that Friday, kind of leading up to that training, not feeling well. Like I had clenching heart, I had this pounding headache, and I kept thinking like maybe I'm coming down with something. And as we got into that training, it got worse and worse. And I remember feeling my brain just like glitching out. Like I was having this almost out of body experience that I was watching myself try to facilitate. And fortunately, we're both comfortable facilitating enough that if something's going on with us internally, we can kind of pretend and
Yeah.
get through it. And my heart was like beating out of my chest. I was red and flushed and somehow managed to get through that training. And I remember just feeling during that training like, I just have to run away. I just have to shut down. I don't know what's happening, but I feel terrible. And so after that happened, I've never been so glad for anything to end in my whole life. But that training ends. And I remember this so vividly that I just slowly closed my laptop and unplugged it and put it in a drawer. And I looked at my phone and I turned it off and I put it in the drawer and I went out to the living room and I remember saying to Dave, kind of in a fog, like, are you going to be here for a little bit with the kids? Because I have to go. And he was like, yeah, but where do you have to go? And I was like, I don't know, but I just have to go. And so I walked out the door and this was when I lived near my mom. So I walked down the street, heart still racing, just not sure what's going on with me. And I knock on her door and I'm like, hey, can you just take a walk with me? Something's up. So we walk and talk, and I finally realize, and I say to her, I think what I just experienced was a panic attack. I think I just
Mhm.
had a panic attack, and I think this panic attack is telling me that I am in burnout. Like we talk about burnout all the time with our clients, but I think this is what I've been experiencing, and holy shit, it feels terrible. So I spent that weekend, no phone, no computer, just recovering from that. And that was 2.5 years ago. And I really, ever since then, have been incrementally putting the pieces back together for myself. And the reason I'm bringing up that story is because I think about it as that was my body saying, your energy is so depleted and so stretched thin that I am going to shut you down unless
Mhm.
you create some new structures, unless you have some new practices for recovery, unless you honor some boundaries, unless you have some unless you figure this out, I'm going to shut you down. And so what I've been doing for the past couple of years is um, I don't know, sort of rebuilding my energy. And the way that's connected to connection and courage for me is that what I've had to do in order to get out of burnout and bring myself back to working and living to my potential is I've had to do a bunch of stuff that requires a lot of courage for me. Like I've had to have new conversations with you and our team at work about what I can handle and not handle. I've had to sometimes say, no, I can't do that. I've had to have conversations with Dave and the kids about boundaries and responsibilities in the house. I've had to make sure that I'm getting enough sleep. So it was just an example for me of um, my energy was so depleted because I had not been making the courageous moves in my life. And because of that, I was honestly so disconnected from myself and so disconnected from my relationships. And it really took some courage for me to bring that back together. And I can say 2.5 years later that, whew, I mean, I still have days where I'm depleted and overwhelmed, but my energy is in such a better place because I was willing to sort of make the courageous moves and have the courageous conversation. And I feel so much more connected to myself, to what's important to me, to the important relationships in my life. And, as we came up with these words, energy, connection, and courage to describe the work we did, it enabled me to put that experience that I've been having the last couple of years, it enabled me to see that story as this intersection of all three. That was a
Yeah.
long story. It's and the fact that I've like really only said that whole story out loud to one other person is also mind-boggling to me because it's been my life experience, but it's
Yeah.
felt vulnerable to even say it out loud. So there you go. There's my story.
Yeah. And I do remember that time. And I think when we have more time, I would love to hear like what your experience is like today, because I know today we still have months like the one we're in
Mhm.
this time of year where it gets to be a whole lot. So I would love to
Mhm.
hear from you what feels different now, or what are some of the red flags that you see when you know maybe you're going down that path again. But I would love to hear like a comparison of now versus then.
That would be so good for me to do. And so maybe some other time too, I want to hear your story because you are amazingly a person to me who doesn't seem to get in overwhelm or whose energy seems endless to me. So I want to know your story and I want to
Mm,
know how you keep it that way.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Whoa, I feel better having said that out loud. Okay, so for people who are listening, one of the two things we're going to do to end is we always want to leave you with one big thing. And the one big thing is the one idea we'd like you to consider, that something you might practice that could rebuild energy, that could repair connection, that could help develop courage. And I was thinking that maybe the one big thing for today is simply about noticing. So begin to notice in your life how these three things, energy, connection, and courage, show up. So notice how when your energy is up and aligned, you feel more connected to people. It makes it easier to do the courageous thing. When you're practicing courage, the other two are in place and vice versa. And when I was talking with Stacy about this one big thing, she said something really important to me, which was that sounds like a good one big thing, but I'm going to need a reminder. So, your one big thing is actually right now after this podcast, go do something, set an alarm on your phone, put a post it note on your computer that reminds you to just check in daily on in this now moment, how our energy, connection, and courage all interrelated for me. So, that's the one big thing. And this brings us to secret time. I've been debating about which secret to share. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
You have to share something with me that I don't know, though.
I have one. So I'm a certified forklift driver. Did you know that?
I definitely did not know that.
I could drive a forklift. I got trained in
We
it.
don't have enough time for me to figure out why, but when this is over, I've got to ask why. That's so good. Okay. You are a certified forklift driver. And I don't know if you know this, but I have 2 toes on my left foot that are webbed. You know that? I swear. My second and third toe are stuck together. They don't come apart.
We're gonna make a meme out of them.
I don't know what a meme is, but it sounds good.
Of course you don't. Of course you don't. It's not good.
Okay. All right. I think it's time for us to wrap.
Thank you for joining us at our very first podcast episode, and we hope to have you in the future and join us for episode number 2, where we'll continue our conversation about energy, connection, and courage.
I'm Rosie Ward, and this is Show Up as a Leader. To learn more, head over to peopleforwardnetwork.com and, of course, hit that follow button.